Hey, everybody, welcome to the Agency Side Podcast. I am your host, Justin Levinson, and I am here today with Christine Göös, who is an award-winning marketer, marketing leader, and co-host of the House of Content podcast, which if you haven't listened to, you should go check it out. Christine's built her career helping SaaS, MarTech, and creative brands scale through smart storytelling and strategic marketing. She's worked with some huge names in tech, retail, and media, and she's here with us today to share her insights on brand building, the creator economy, and what's really working in content marketing right now. Thanks so much for being here, Christine.
Thank you for having me. Let's get rolling.
Yeah. Hopefully, I got that intro all right. Did my best. But yeah, thanks so much for coming along. And maybe before we get into it, you can just start by telling us, maybe a little bit about the podcast first and how that all came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So the podcast is a funny story because I have been hosting in one way or another for since I was 20 years old, really. So I'm from Helsinki, Finland originally, and I had an online television series on it was kind of like our Vice Media, but obviously at a much smaller scale. We're a
Yeah.
country of 5.5 million people. And I was hosting this nightlife show on the gigs and concerts, music venues, and festivals in Helsinki. And so I started podcasting, I want to say back in 2019, 2020. But then I realized when I looked back that I actually had this sort of connection to hosting and being in front of a mic that spanned all the way back there. And I originally hosted Brandside Podcast, so similar name to yours, for
Yeah.
Celtra, the creative automation company. And that show actually garnered some 500,000 downloads during its time.
Cool.
And obviously, as I moved on to a different role, I had to also then give up that IP because that was part of the company's marketing remit, right? And so then I kind of had maybe a year or so that I was thinking about what was next. And I decided to start a show myself with two amazing social creatives out of TBWA, Chai LA. Annie and Mel, who are my co-hosts, they both work with some amazing brands there. If you've seen some of those Levi's campaigns with Beyonce,
Mm.
Jan is behind those. And so we actually started with an Instagram or LinkedIn DM and just asking like, hey, like, would you be interested in co-hosting a show about the creator economy? And I was also trying to break into that industry that time. I've been working in the realm of social media for a very long time and advertising and creative and ad tech, but influencers was something that I was very passionate about and I wanted to break into. And this podcast, when we founded it in 2023, was an avenue to start talking about those topics, having opinions and debating things that were happening in the creator economy at that time. And we, never looked back.
That's really cool. So you didn't know the other two ladies on the podcast before. It was just, you just met through online.
So, funny story, we have all worked in the same agency back in Helsinki, TBWA, but we
Okay.
never worked at the same time. Yanni and Mel worked together when they were still in Helsinki, and then both of them, one by one, moved stateside to LA. But Mel and I just got connected via LinkedIn, and she asked me for some career advice, how to move to New York or to the US in general. We had some drinks, and that propelled into a
Yeah,
full
yeah.
podcast at some point, I guess, and we asked Yanni to join, and the rest is history.
Yeah. How did the process go from moving from Helsinki to the US? How is that all calculated and how did it all come to be?
So when I started thinking about moving to New York, I was young, naive, and very optimistic. And I thought to myself, how hard can it be? I've done the, Young Lions circuit. I had some awards under my belt. And at that time, TWI Helsinki was Gun Report Top 10. They were one of the most awarded, most innovative agencies in the TBWA network. And some of that legacy is still there today. So I thought I've got the roster, I've got the resume. And boy, was I humbled when I came to New York to meet with potentials or have the calls or try to even get my foot in the door here, right? Because you'll have to find somebody who would sponsor your visa.
Mm.
And it took me a good year and a half to find a company that would, sponsor my visa. I was applying and having those conversations out of Helsinki, and finally was able to make that move. But I actually pivoted into B2B marketing, into content marketing on the tech side. And so it was kind of a moment where I had to sort of let my ego or put my ego away from coming from this like advertising, very flashy world, going to the startup world where small budgets, you have to wear 15 different hats and kind of build everything as you're also learning in this new role and in this new practice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Do you like New York?
I'm in love with New York. It is something that I've wanted to do since I was 14 years old. I had this crazy dream that one year when I'm an adult, I'm going to live here. I'm going to be walking down Manhattan with a coffee in my hand and this is going to be my life. Like all the, I've watched Sex in the City. I'm that cliche, but it really some of the millennial myths are very true and that's what happened to me as well.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, obviously, I'm from the States. My family grew up in New York and New Jersey, so I was very accustomed to that. But Los Angeles always had that feel to me where I was just like,
Mm.
Hollywood, what is this? And when I first moved out to LA, I was like, it felt like every day was, it's that euphoric. It was just like every day was a vacation. Like, who am I going to meet today? What is this person doing? Or it was just so exciting. So I can relate to that. With the podcast, I guess what do you see as like the ultimate goal of the podcast? What are you guys trying to achieve?
Thanks for tuning in, folks. This episode is brought to you by Coming Up Creative, a relationship first boutique creative recruitment agency. We disrupt the creative ecosystem by running sophisticated, multi channel campaigns with custom video and voice outreach that actually gets responses. We actively market the agencies and brands we represent to help them stand out to today's industry's top talent, all backed by real human connection and AI powered targeting. If you're ready for a modern recruitment approach, visit www.comingupllc.com and get started today.
I think it started out as a means to position ourselves in the industry. Again, we're a very niche show, I would say, but the opportunities that we've already gotten just from hosting the show are pretty incredible. We've spoken at Future North America Influencer Marketing Show, doing the podcast rounds, but more importantly, it's a great conversation opener. And so when I was interviewing or looking for jobs, being able to send out something concrete to the people that you're interviewing with or even trying to open doors with, it just changes the dynamic and changes the game. And I think that was the number one goal for us, really thought leadership and positioning ourselves in the industry, as well as bringing or bridging the social media and brand marketing worlds closer together, because I feel like there is such a divide between the two still today,
Yeah.
where social people are like the brand platform creatives, they don't understand social and vice versa. And right, both are right, actually. And
Yeah.
then like you have the brand creatives and creative leaders saying that social people are coming to the table just with trends or very tactical activations, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I'm always interested to see why people do podcasts and what their reasons behind it. I mean, for me, I use it. I mean, of course, it's like it can be a lead generation tool for us, which is obviously kind of like what you're saying as well that you guys are doing. But I sort of use it as just constant not industry knowledge and constantly just trying to learn from the people that I'm speaking with. I will even like use the discussions that I'm having with people and put them in a GPT thread and kind of
Mhm.
like stack them up and like just so I can really just learn and absorb and understand the pain points of the industry, understand other people's perspectives, and of course all of that can provide more social media as well because you can I mean, you can obviously share the magic clips, you can share insights that you gather. It's just a really like it's just pretty amazing how podcasts seem to really have just become such a thing, even
and
more
I
so.
And I also think just strategically, it almost forces us to really deep dive into what is happening at a certain area of the creator economy or influencers or even brands. For example, one of the episodes that we just put out last week or recently was around this social behavior where creators are actually embarking on either no buys or low buys. And so they are trying to consume less and they're actually creating content around maybe getting out of debt or becoming more mindful or shopping your closet. And I think these are really important undercurrents that both brands and agencies have to understand. And they're born so quickly and they go very deep and there's multiple facets to it. And the podcast, it's a perfect way for us to kind of debate the different angles. What can brands do? What should creators do? And it's just also it makes us better marketers, I think.
Yeah. Have you had any really like killer insights that from anybody that has come on that has been pretty like eye-popping for you?
So I think one of our best guest episodes, typically we try to keep it just between us. We're three hosts already, and as you can
Yeah.
imagine with remote recording, it might get a little messy, but we have had Mackenzie Green on the show. She is VP Social at Future, so it's a parent company that owns Who What Wear, Marie Claire, a bunch of different media properties. And her episode around just how she approaches social overall, and sort of she comes from, I believe she went to Columbia Business School, and so she is applying this deep business analytics type of modeling to social. It's definitely worth a listen, and just understanding how you can connect the dots from social and brand over to commerce and e-com even. It was a wild listen. And I go back periodically just to kind of remind myself of the lessons of that episode.
Yeah, it's like a good book, you know. You got to
Yeah,
keep returning to it to get those golden
absolutely.
nuggets.
For sure.
That's cool. What I guess maybe you could tell us like, obviously the creator economy is like crazy huge. What do you how do you think, brands are adapting to that? Are there things that, that they're getting wrong possibly?
I think there are brands who, and again, it's that classic challenger brands and brands who have really built their whole operations around social first marketing have been able to catch up quicker. And there are some larger companies too. Like we all saw that Unilever announcement that they're going to hire 20 times more creators. I know that Walmart is investing big into building out their creator ecosystem across both awareness with influencers, but then also social commerce and even affiliates. And so that is something that's happening. But then what we still see today is a lot of brands are still looking at follower counts, and it doesn't really matter because if we look at most of the content that we consume on our FYPs, that's not people that we follow. It's topics that we follow. It is the new way of kind of even how the algorithm works. So it's the interest graph, meaning people are shown content that they're interested in on topics that they're interested in or niches and communities versus the sort of the social graph, which means who am I following? Who are the people that I'm following my friends. Kind of it's not about that anymore. It's more about interest based. And I think more brands need to move into that space and understand that you might have to venture outside of your vertical to be successful. Obviously, let's say you're a beauty brand, you will have to partner with beauty influencers as well, but maybe you're finding a big overlap that you're launching a new foundation and you find that the book talk community is extremely passionate about beauty overall, so you might actually hire a series of book talk creators to do content around the foundation. And again, you need to sort of find those almost like those axes and cross pollinate across the board and find different ways of breaking through just because the competition is so high. So that's one. And I think the second one is also, and this is something that we're really passionate about at Croud, at my agency group, we have our performance media side, but then we also have the social and influencer agency. Born Social is part of our agency group as well. And really, both the paid side and the organic side should not be separated anymore. It's all one and the same. Influencer marketing has brought this collapse of the funnel, meaning that these influencer assets, they can both drive awareness and conversion and consideration all in one go. And so I think those two teams should be sitting under the same department, in my opinion, and just working really
Yeah.
closely together.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Do you find that they're separated a lot, like in different?
Well, they're completely different.
They're never. Yeah.
Traditionally, yeah, because traditionally organic social sits under maybe its own department, or it might be part of brand marketing. Influencer sometimes even sits in PR, whereas paid social has been always part of the media department. And I think now it should all kind of
Cross
converge and
pollinate.
come together.
Yeah, that's interesting. Are there any brands that in particular that you feel are really crushing it that you're excited about that you think is kind of taking advantage of all these different things you're talking about?
I mean, there are multiple from the fashion vertical. Loewe and Jacquemus are doing fantastic job on social, particularly on TikTok. And what they're doing so well is that they are actually bringing high quality production into social without it feeling like somebody just stuck a TV commercial on
Mm,
TikTok. They're social first but their campaigns and their content, it still stays true to their brand. Because what the other thing that happens a lot of times with influencer and with social is that, okay, you're very social native, you know how to do the trends, but are you doing anything that links back to your brand? And so are you just another person, another content creator under that brand logo doing the same trend as everybody else? So how does it build your brand equity? Jacquemus and Loewe are amazing at doing that. Another brand that has done a fantastic job rebranding themselves through being social first is Guinness. And that's actually some of the work coming out of our Born Social side of the agency. And they relaunched Guinness in the UK with the help of influencers, with the help of social first and trending content. But again, always bringing it back to the brand heritage. And I believe Guinness is now one of the most popular drinks again amongst that consumer group, which is insane that you're able to do that just by using social and influencer.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. That's cool. What do in terms of what you're doing right now? I know you also are a director of marketing, correct?
I
Like
am, yeah.
personally,
Yeah.
what is your day-to-day like on that front?
Yeah, so I am about a month into my new role at Croud, leading US marketing, but also has part of a global remit working together with our CMO, Danny Jordan. She comes from Dentsu. She is an absolute marketing powerhouse. And so we're building out our brand fame and demand gen and integrated marketing plans for the year. And so you will be seeing us a lot at different industry events and mainstays. We're currently building out our can presence and content on the ground. I'll be there in about a month or so at the time of this recording, and really just building out a marketing strategy here in the US market that showcases the best that Croud has to offer. You know, we have quite a unique operating model where we're around 6 in-house experts, and then we have a network of almost 3,000 on-demand specialists that are part of the Crowdy network that we tap into, that we work with all the time when we need to scale up different areas of the services that we provide, whether it's performance or analytics or biddable media. It is quite an interesting model where we're seeing that media agencies and agencies as a whole and holding companies are in a little bit of a flux. We're seeing the layoff announcements resulting in from mergers everywhere. And I think the model of the future is it's tech enabled through both like proprietary and maybe third party tools, especially around AI and automation. I'm spewing a lot of buzzwords here, but it is true. It is true. And it allows you to then work with a set of on-demand talent that's going to be able to bring the best results for your clients. And so I think there's a lot of great stories that I can tell through that offering, and that's what I'm figuring out right now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Do you see as AI making a big splash here in your particular niche?
I think that AI is definitely going to streamline a lot of the media buying side of things, especially operationally. But I think as it becomes easier and easier to run the not even the tactical side, but the technical side of targeting audiences, spend, optimization, all of those things, as that becomes table stakes, what is a true differentiator there? And I think it's brand. And what we're seeing also, there's a lot of conversations around how is AI going to disrupt search. Search is down, especially these AI summaries that Google is now creating. It means that a lot of people are not going to click through, not the ad results or even the organic results. So what I think is going to happen then is that brand, and we're seeing this already, a lot of brands that previously, you just I'm simplifying it, but you throw money at platforms and you're getting revenue out of it, right? But
Yeah.
for the longest time, it used to be a lot easier to get results across Meta, across social platforms, Google, and now it's becoming more challenging. Everybody knows that. And so brands are understanding that they have to go back to brand, but not the brand marketing that we did 15 years ago. So you're not going to have the same results just throwing your money on TV or any type of like top of funnel awareness. Now it's combining brand and performance. There's this new middle ground that has emerged, and not many know how to navigate that. And that's kind of the space that Croud plays in and is building out playbooks for sort of this new era of media.
Do you feel like you're just as passionate about do you like the paid analytics and the data and all that stuff, or is that part interest you as much as the content creation, or do you have like a one side of you is more into more than the other?
I would not say that it's one or the other. I actually come from the performance side of things. So I worked at Smartly for a long time, that today is the largest social and paid media advertising platform. And I think you need sort of, it's the yin and a yang, and you need both. And I think in this role, especially, I'm able to work across, because we do offer both brand, performance, influencer, and social. I'm able to kind of work on stories that span the whole breadth of it. Personally, I am a creator economy girly through and through. That's my number one love, but I'm also loving how that world is sort of coming through to B2B marketing as well. We're seeing the rise of LinkedIn. A lot of B2B companies and agencies are starting to dabble in the influencer space there. It's still very new. That's something that I'm very bullish on, and something that I'm allocating budgets towards. So
Yeah,
very excited about that.
that's really interesting because it's like obviously, I come from a recruiting background, and when I first started getting into recruiting, and people were like, "You got to get a LinkedIn page." I'm like, "LinkedIn?" I'm like, "That's where all the nerds are. I'm not going on LinkedIn. What's that thing?" You know what I mean? And I was like, I didn't even have a LinkedIn page, and like, I think that there are more and more people jumping onto that platform now, like you said, and there's so much more content. I mean, yeah, it seems like it's really a thing, and I'm really curious to see where it goes as well.
I have been investing heavily into my own LinkedIn content for the past 2 years. I'm still quite niche. I have a little under 5,000 followers, but I recently signed my first multi-post brand deal. I've again gotten different speaking opportunities through that. I definitely think that it is not just for your personal brand and your future, employability and being able to have sort of the control of like where you want to steer your career. I definitely think it can become I don't want to become a full-time creator, but as a side hustle, it's a really fun space to play in.
Yeah, I love it, and I love the way it's changed the recruitment world because we're more it's more of like a digital marketing approach that we have
Hmm.
too, because it's not just like if we have a role, we're like making a video to promote that role. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And we're
Yeah.
putting somebody who's like good on camera, who can talk about the role in short and get eyeballs on there. So people are going to engage with it or connect with us. And we do personalized video outreach as well, personalized voice memos. And then, of course, we're always trying to create content that positions us as like experts, and especially in the creative agency space. But we also work in a lot of other different parts of, we work with a lot of immersive entertainment. We work in, traditional brand, influencer, experiential, gaming, theatrical marketing. We're sort of like all over the map.
Yeah.
It gives us a place to like try to be on message and to also share stories like
Hmm.
speaking with people like you about getting your message out there. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked on it. And I think one thing I'm finding that's interesting about LinkedIn is like, I mean, I guess I could look into the analytics more. There's so much more I'm sure I could learn to be having things perform better. But I do notice that it's not a difficult platform to really have an omnipresence where you can really be everywhere. And I'll definitely hear from people all the time that'll be like, you know, I might not see a ton of engagement, but people are always like, "Oh, I just saw your podcast, or I just saw your post, or I just saw this or this or that." Like it
Yeah.
really feels like maybe the data isn't showing that whatever. I'm never going to become I mean, look at me. I'm never going to become an influencer, but it's showing that people are like, you know, people are engaged with it, and it's cool.
Again, for me, I think the best way to approach LinkedIn is to completely divorce yourself from the data. So I'll have my posts go out there, and sometimes they will completely tank and I get 2 likes. Sometimes I remove them and I'll just tweak the intro or the hook and post it again at a different time. I don't really care if things don't do well, because there are always going to be some that do better than the others. It's about experimentation. And again, I'm more interested in like, am I growing on the long term? Or am I growing month over month, or even 3 months, or even 6 months, or a year? And again, that's exactly what you said. Hearing that anecdotal evidence of people coming in, like, I've listened to your podcast, I saw your
Yeah,
LinkedIn post, I really like that video. That to me is much more important than anything else.
yeah. And I mean, for me, sometimes it's just like it's the reward can be also just like having the guts to say something. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because people like I mean, there are a million people in any niche that have things to say, but they just are like that fear of like, oh, what's somebody gonna think of me? Or if I post this, am I gonna get like a bad reaction? Or like, that sort of like imposter syndrome that can really come with like when
Mm-hmm.
you're putting yourself out there. I mean, I get nervous when I do pretty much anything, if I'm a podcast or if I'm thinking about a post or, I'm not like overall like I'm not paranoid that like, oh, what if someone's not going to like me? But I definitely have those intrusive thoughts that come
Mm-hmm.
into my
Mm-hmm.
mind. And sometimes just putting something out there, whether it does well or not, can really just be like, I did something today. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. And I've kind of adopted this mindset of what other people think about my content is none of my business. And kind of
Yeah,
it sets you free. It sets you free. I mean, obviously I love it when people come in, and my goal is to provide value. If people come in and say, I love this Substack or this newsletter or this podcast episode, it's the best feeling in the world, and that's what I do it for. But if there are haters, that's not really any of my business. They can
we
keep
can
their
hate.
thoughts
Let
to
the haters
themselves.
hate.
Hey, let the haters hate. And also, I think it's so important to just get over the cringe, because every content creator, when they had 100 followers, were cringy, and that's the
Yeah,
fact. You're always cringy when you're a beginner, whatever you're starting out on, and you're gonna have to be able to push through that point to like get on the other side. And the less you care, the more fun it is as well.
definitely. It is hard to find a voice though. And I find that maybe I think like when you do first start, it feels like you are, it's like you're trying to put on other people's faces. You're trying,
Mm-hmm.
you're trying new hats. You're like, oh, I like the way this person, maybe if I position it like this or I speak like this, it takes a while to kind of like find like, who am I in all of this, which is also kind of a cool, like soul searching
Mm-hmm.
thing. And because I mean, you see some people that in the recruiting world where a lot of social people I follow, it's like
Mm-hmm.
they almost like are trying to be conversation like or like confrontational. Like they're like
Mm.
putting a story out there that's very much like it's gonna get people like there's
It's
two
rage
sides to
baiting.
yeah, they'll generate a lot of things, but I'm not a conflict kind of guy. That's not
Mm-hmm.
gonna be that's definitely not my window, but I
Mm-hmm.
see it sometimes. I'm like, I'm kind of jealous that like
Mm-hmm.
you can't I'm not I wish I could be a conflict kind of guy, but I'm just it's not me.
No, you gotta stay true to yourself. I think I had an advantage in I'm a writer by trade. I started as a copywriter, but I was writing even before. That's always been my thing, and so I think that the voice that I had came very easily to me, and I try to write the way I think, and I try to write the way I am. I don't want to corporatize myself for LinkedIn. And we sometimes do end up writing in that LinkedIn speak a little bit, and now more recently maybe some people are writing in AI speak, but I refuse to do that.
Now it's the emojis I think are what seems to be like the biggest turn off to me. It's just like
Mm,
the bullet points and emojis where I'm just like, man, like
I
maybe it would be just more like if it was just hidden a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like I'll definitely like make something, create it, like get like three-quarters of the way there, use GPT to sort of be like, hey, like is there anything could any of this be better, but can it stay human in my tone? And like obviously the thread knows who I am because it's been trained, but I'm never going into it at a blank slate being like, hey, GPT, make me a post that's going to be engaging about like why creative agencies are going to be doing terrible in 2026. You know what I mean? Like you have to be the ultimate creator like 95% of the way there for
yeah.
it to not be red flaggy.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I use AI a lot for background research and then for versioning. For example, once we do have our episode ready, I would use it just to generate some of the outlines that go onto the platforms like Spotify. And then I do final edits there. But when it comes to my posts or my newsletters, those have to be in my tone. I do sometimes transcribe my thoughts just to get them on paper quicker, but then I'll take over from AI. I'm like, okay, buddy, you're done. It's over to Word docs now, and I'm very adamant about that, and I think that's all like part of the brand that I'm building as well.
Yeah, I love it. In terms of your daily, like, just your daily workflow. What's sort of like your tech stack? What do you find? What kind of tools are you using?
Sure. So for on the podcast side, we're
Sorry, a little bang.
no worries. So on the tech side, we do use Riverside as well. We mostly ChatGPT. I've tried Gemini, but I have to say I'm more of an OpenAI person myself. I think it's a superior tool, at least. At
Totally.
least for the use cases that I have. And we use that mostly just for, again, for versioning once those main outlines are done. We use, what else do we use? We're mostly posting through all of the native platforms because that's how we see the best performance.
Yeah.
We've been on Substack since January, I want to say, give or take, and we do post all of our episodes there. But that for us, so we push out our weekly episodes every Thursday, and then the Tuesdays we have a newsletter that has a completely different topic that's related to creators or brand marketing or careers as a whole. I think that's pretty much it on the podcast side of things. And then obviously whenever it comes for, for social and video editing, it's all in CapCut.
CapCut. Yeah, yeah. That's cool. Do you use any other like just basic tools for workflow? Like do you like Calendly or do you use like any sort of like just other outside tools as well?
No, not really, because again, because we're not a guest-led show, so we don't really need to do the bookings there. So we just have our standing recording meeting. We usually try to do at least 2 or 3 recordings at a time so that we get most out of the hair and makeup that we've already done now that we're on video. It's our first video season. And then we actually have an editor in Brazil who edits
Oh, cool.
our clips in our podcast, and I found it through a mutual friend of mine, and she's just fantastic. And I used to edit our show when it was audio only myself. I have no business editing anything, and so it is great to have that offboarded for now.
I had the Captions app for a while on my phone, which was kind of cool. And I was messing around with the weird like AI clone doing stuff
Hmm.
like that for a minute. I was like, this stuff is pretty bizarre.
Yeah, yeah. I think I had once. I had a salesperson send me a pitch as the AI version of himself, and
Ah,
I found it to be very bizarre and he did not make a sale out of that. So I think AI clones for me is also another area. It's being debated in the creator economy a lot, and people are saying, "Oh, now AI creators are going to overtake humans." But the challenge there is that AI creators cannot be imperfect or messy or scandalous, or if they can, you're going to have to engineer that, and that's not something that's really engineerable. And I
yeah.
think all of this sort of AI slush is going to also push for people to look for more authenticity than ever. So I think we're going to see like two like very conflicting streams in marketing
From your
in
mouth
the
to God's ear. I hope that
yeah.
that's the case. Because I don't want to be looking at a bunch of clones on my feeds. I'm hoping that you're right. Because I mean, maybe that kind of thing is the great reset for content quality. Like maybe we have to like it sort of has to get to that, and then we become like really like organic and thoughtful again. Maybe.
I think so because persona, if we're looking at the influencer arena as a whole, people are kind of backlashing against even they are real influencers, but there was this whole scandal around New York City influencers being boring. People were saying that these fashion influencers who are all dining at the best restaurants and wearing designer, and they all actually there was a really great, I think it was a cut article about it, but there's one lady in particular who's behind as a manager behind all of these big names like Audrey Peters, those types. And people were saying like they're all from the same mold. It's not made with AI, but people were already kind of backlashing against that because they felt too engineered, too perfect, too curated. And now there's this other side where people are looking for personas for messy. I'm following a couple creators who are like native New Yorkers and have that thick accent and they have an amazing style. And so we're seeing sort of, it's always going to be an ebb and flow, but personality is going to still win on social.
I love it. That's pretty cool. I guess we don't have too much more time, but
Mhm.
I'm curious what you like to do outside of working in the socials. What do you like to do like in your personal life?
Yeah, so my stepson who is almost 11, he is my little restaurant buddy. We love going out to try new things, and what we do is he does not have TikTok, but we do scroll TikTok for new restaurants and specialty foods to try in New York City. And then we earmark our favorite places. And it's a really fun experience for him to see the video first. And then we're actually going to go and try it in real life. Like, for example, there is this pineapple pork bun that you can get at this tiny Chinese bakery in Chinatown here in New York City. I think it's called Mei Wai La, if I remember correctly, and it's the best thing either of us have ever eaten. But things like that. So that's our little side quest. We're always looking for new cuisines to try in New York City.
That's cool. Are you like a avid book reader, or do you like to travel, or any other sort of
Sure.
personal things you like to do?
Yes. Yes. So I travel a lot, both for work, but also because my family's all over the globe. So I'm married to a Brazilian, and so we go back to Brazil a lot. And
Nice.
my dad's Italian. He's a circus artist, so he's always touring Europe. And so I try to catch him wherever he is in the world and go see his shows as well. So we do travel quite a lot as well.
That's really cool. Any favorite music?
Yes. So I am currently obsessed with the Bad Bunny album that he just put out. I think it is a masterpiece. He obviously, coming from this reggaeton background, he then now tapped into traditional Puerto Rican rhythms. He's made salsa songs. He's kind of transcending his own genre, and it's a masterpiece. And I'm hoping I can go see him in Puerto Rico when he does his residency. I think he's avoiding US as a whole in his world tour, which is a message in
Who's
of
the artist
itself.
again?
Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I've listened. I'm gonna have to give this a listen.
Put
I'm
the
always
album,
interested in.
yeah. Put the
That's
album
cool.
on the list. It's great.
Cool. Awesome, Christine. Well, thanks so much for being here today and speaking with us and just offering value to our community. And look forward to following your journey and staying in touch with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Christine.